Hello everyone, welcome to the recording, welcome to another broadcast from your anchor, the most madman alive, Leonok. That is my name. I know most of you probably didn't know that, didn't see it coming for the longest time. I have people call me Media, but I was like, that's part of the old channel, the old name. It's how everyone, you can still call me that, I'm not offended by it, it is absolutely fine. But I am here with another video, another interesting morsel for all of you to tune into. But first, welcome everyone, welcome ladies and gentlemen, welcome my lords, my ladies, my wizards, my lizards in the White House, shout out, my losers, the knights, the mayors in practice, the stars, the bards, the junkyard dogs. Welcome to another video, and of course my rats. I'm so happy to have all of you here today. I'm so happy to have all of you interested in little old me in this video, but I'm so happy that all of you have decided to take some time out of your day to pay your own master a visit. So I am so happy, so ecstatic. Why? Because I'm going to start off something a little bit different in this video. So what I've noticed is that I feel as though I'm limiting myself as to how many people are able to see me. And so for the majority of my videos, so they are informational most of the time. They concern matters of magic or myths, primarily speaking, most of the time. I thought it only important and only imperative that I speak to perhaps a wider general audience. And so in order for our family to be a lot bigger, we have to accommodate some spaces, make more room for more people that are interested in following, for more people that are interested in me, or perhaps in the objects or the subjects that we're going to be talking about. So I'm going to try and make myself a bit more composed, a bit more refined, as it were, to a mass-wide audience. And because I've noticed that there are perhaps young ones out there, like perhaps, young up-and-coming mages who are lacking the right personality, the right professor with all the answers to the questions they have. And of course, maybe some theories that maybe they haven't delved into. Because I remember when I was a young mage, I was focused, I was ready, and I was determined to achieve what it is that I wanted to, achieve. But I had no access to anything primarily till I started, looking around. And so there are many of us, and I understand many of the young people out there, perhaps you have parents that perhaps don't understand what you're doing. You're perhaps going through something interesting into your life. They may have some thoughts about it, some opinions that maybe aren't welcome to you. But I want you to understand and to know that on this channel, not only are we family, but we try to be as welcoming and as understanding as possible. There are opinions many of us have that others don't agree with. And even if we don't see eye to eye on certain issues, we have to remember and we have to reiterate that we are friends, that we are family. Family can have arguments, family can even have fights. But what matters is that you do not let those fights create rifts and tears within the fabric of that family, because it is important for families to stick together. So if you need a family, that's why I'm here, and that's why we are here. And though I must preface this by saying so, I do not in any way sort of try to undermine however your parental figures may be or anything like that. You can feel free to watch these videos with them. Hello, parents! I know what you were doing. So, so there's lots of things you have to sort of take into account. But I'm trying to sort of compose myself in a more, what's the right word? Refined, yes, in a more appropriate manner for the general masses. A lot of videos I have in the past, though salacious they quite might seem, and I recommend, slightly older. I'm not expecting children to watch this, but, teenagers are just fine, to understand it. I don't go into too much detail or too vulgar, just some jets here and there. But, this sort of thing is sort of something new that I'm trying. And if I had to sort of, create a separate area for, a younger audience to consume my material, to perhaps learn from, to perhaps pose an idea, because I don't see enough people out there trying to become, people like mages or witches or anything else like that, because there's such a negative connotation. But it is a practice, it is a belief, just like everything else. And just like everything else, there are certain things or theories or practices that people don't agree with versus other ones. But what I am doing on this channel as a purpose is to discuss the theories behind these certain things, why they perhaps exist, why they may work or not work in certain circumstances, and why it is important to have something of, of this sort of caliber or material in mind, in consideration. Because I do believe in things like the human spirit. I do believe in things like energy, things like spirits in general. but I'm also extremely aware of the scientific factors and the reasonings behind certain actions or believe, certain results of those actions. So on this channel, it is mainly theoretical, mostly, but in practice as well. And it is something that I myself engage in a more, basic sense. Unfortunately, I am not at liberty at the moment because of where I reside to partake in these sort of activities, things I would like to do that a bit more elaborate. So they might happen perhaps at a later date. But what this video is supposed to do is to give you a proper introduction into the channel. Hello, my name is Leonak, and I'm insane! I know it is absolutely appalling that someone like me even has a channel on this, what's it called? On this platform. But I am here for you. I'm here for everyone, really. And what I encourage most of all is talking points, cohesion is what I want. Some proper unity in this world of madness. So I believe, and those of you who already seen this sort of topic, feel free to end the video. This is not necessarily for you, but however, I am summarizing and making things a bit more concrete and more precise for you to absorb. So you can feel free to take a bit more precise notes if you would like to, and perhaps you don't tune into this video. So before I get on with the subject, I want you to take a look at my set here. I have a list of items. Now, you notice there is a prime ingredient that I am in fact missing. And that is in fact my grimoire. It has literally gone, walked up and left me. Okay, I went to a medieval fair, which was absolutely beautiful. I went there in the mundane realm and it was just up. It was a lovely time. There was music. There was some dancing, believe it or not, and some reenactments. And I absolutely loved it. I highly recommend it. However, as I went, I found that my grimoire decided to just get up and walk away. So now I'm here, bookless, when I need a subject most of all, and I could go into my older one, which I believe would be appropriate technically for this particular audience, but I don't want to demean anyone just because you're perhaps, I don't even know how old you are. But that is what it is right there. So I have a list of things. I have an hourglass you may or may not see there, which is a point of conversation that I may perhaps bring at a later date in another video to perhaps explain some things and how it's useful in things like magic and things like ingredients and how you are using those sort of components. I have this skull here as decoration mostly, but it is also to help bring to mind the concept of life and death and why it is something that is revered, to be remembered and honored, and something to be feared at the same time based on certain outlooks from different cultures. And of course, I have my chest of miscellaneous items, which within I also have things like incense cones, because smells, obviously. You have to set the mood for the spirits, of course. And of course, I have things like potion flasks, which I have yet to use. I am sorry, I am not a potion maker. It is not my line of work. I have them there because I do plan on using them. So when I use them, I will let everyone know. And yes, your parents can be there if you want to know how to make certain things. Heat may or may not be involved, but for the most part, I try to come up with things that either are original or are things that are safe enough to make for everyone. So I don't try to make anything, dangerous. And I will inform you if there are things that could potentially be, hazardous to your health, things that could cause allergic reactions. So don't be too crazy about that. Mind you, I am not extravagantly learned in certain matters, and I will make those aware for you, okay? Over here, I have my recorder, which I do in fact play, but I will not at this moment because I am a little bit lost for breath, honestly. And of course, I have my burner. I have burned many things in this flask. Some of you probably. Hello, spirits. Yes, so I apologize for that, but bad children have to go somewhere. I'm sorry, I said it. Sue me. Don't sue me, I have no money. You never catch me alive. So, so those are the objects I have. I have lanterns, I have a cage there where I used to hold someone. They're gone now. Be your best behavior. And of course, I have a story point there. Believe it or not, that on top of there is a crown. You perhaps can't see it on top of there, but that is what it is. So, I will just jump into the video. And excuse me while I adjust some certain things here. I hope I come out straight enough in the video. Straight I am not. Ha ha! Joking! No, not joking. I'm serious about it. But I believe I think the proper term, I believe the proper thing to start things off is what I'm about. Now, I am a professor at the Academia of Magic, or I believe the Alchemical Societies is what I'm a member of. It is essentially an organization that was created to sort of monitor the magical acts or happenings within the region that I come from. And they are also partially responsible for observing the practices that are done by people like myself within your mundane realm to prevent certain chaotic things from happening. Now, there are certain things that have happened, historical events that I will not go into, that may have been a result of, some interference, especially, historical things and legends and myths like griffins or whatever, that may have been, a whoopsie that maybe we committed, but, like I said, a lot of things happen in the past, and there's things that we don't inherently agree with. We don't support these sort of actions taken by these individuals. They were radicals, they were rogues. But these sort of things did in fact happen, and there are explanations for them, and I have all of them here for you to enjoy. So I believe the first thing I will dive into is what my channel is mainly about, just so that people dismiss any sort of strange understandings or perhaps misconceptions about what I do here. On my channel, I simply talk about the theories and the practices of things like magic, of things like monsters, myths, legends, even things of gods or religions. I've been going to those things. We can be a, topic that's a bit sensitive to some viewers, but I warn you before that, because I sort of see the similarities behind them. I analyze sort of practices they do, whether or not they are magical in nature, and why they did those sort of things. And at times, I will also go into the certain practices that, people that practice magic or things of that nature do, the safety measures. And I will give you reference points in videos about people that are a bit more savvy in certain fields than I am, because despite me being a professor at this academia, I am not knowledgeable in everything that I do, but I have a general knowledge and consensus from various, professors at this magisterium, of which I am also a member of. So, let me see if I can find what I'm looking for. This is where I've started the first video here. Now, this was perhaps my first grimoire that I invented when I was in school in learning. I know, I'm tearing up just thinking about it. It happened so long ago. But there's something that is... I'm sorry. Oh, the sniffles are getting to me. But this is something that's very important. So, all of this, I made this very simply. It's a simple notebook, rather thick or whatever. Painted it myself. I applied a sort of type of, styrofoam or safety film thing on it for the designs. When you're trying to make something like this, it is always important to put your intention, to focus your intention into whatever you're doing when you're crafting this. We're trying to tune this to your spirit and to your person as possible. With things like attunement come into the picture, I will go into more detail on that later. But I believe the first thing I should talk about on my channel is the concept of magic and mana and what they are. Now, this is a brief summary, especially for those of you who have seen this video already, or perhaps have certain ideas about it. So there are many misconceptions about what magic is, what mana is. Magic, as far as I understand it, from what I've seen, is perhaps the manifestation of a person's will in the most basic sense. Whenever you're trying to will something into existence, whatever you're trying to make happen, the act of doing something to create a result is inherently magic, okay? It is a manifestation of a person's will and intention through the act of a particular practice, whether it be chanting, praying, making music, whether it's putting things together, potion making, all of those things, even making certain types of objects. The practice, the act that you are doing to sort of enable the forces to work within your favor through the veil, through the air, the act itself and the practice, and the effects that come out of it, is essentially what magic is in the most basic and simplest sense that I can think of to tell you, to explain to you. What mana is the essence that gives a source for the magic to pull from. And the different types of mana and mana iterations. The mana spans across different cultures, different religions. But the function of mana remains the same, whether it involves gods or not. Mana is a source of power. It comes from a different realm that fuels spells and that fuels things like magic or the concepts of magic. That is inherently what mana is. Okay? When people can get their source of mana almost from anything, but that thing has to have a pool of mana within it. people themselves can also be pools of mana. However, when we rely upon our own energy, we can become drained. When we rely upon our own mana, we can become exhausted, which could be difficult to, proceed with the rest of the spell if you're working in that sort of thing, and dangerous if you require a certain mana to take precautionary measures, especially when it comes to performing things like advanced spell works, or even things like curses or even boons, because they can backfire, or they could perhaps, have some other secondary results that you were not planning on that are very important to tackle and to cancel out as soon as possible. But without the proper amount of mana, you will be exhausted, and the fuel that you need and require to achieve the spell won't work. If your car has no fuel, it can go no further. If you are trying to get to your house but you run out of gas, that's the end of it. So then you have to come up with other means of getting to where you need to go, which will require you to either push the car or to have an alternative source of getting your car to where your destination is, or believe to sort of shift the focus of the car as a vehicle to transporting you, or the car itself to transporting yourself by asking the aid of a separate vehicle, or perhaps a separate entity to get you where you need to go. Spirits can be a source of mana. We ourselves are spirits. We reside within corporeal forms, so our experience of life and magic as a consequence is different from that of the spirits. But we ourselves are pools of mana, like I just said. But we need to take into account that every now and then a pool gets empty and it needs refilling. In order to refill our mana, we need to connect with the source we gain our mana from. Now, there is such a thing as a mana nature that many individuals have that sort of make them more inclined to certain types, elements, or, descriptions of mana, that fuel certain types of magics. But it is something that you need to all take into account, okay? So that's pretty much the basis of what I'm basing all of, magic on. And there is a truth to this sort of thing. So when people are trying to rely on doing things like spells, whatever it is, if you're praying, you're chanting, you're fasting, you're making medicine, which are potions, you're doing things like music to enact a certain type of, a certain type of emotion or anything like that, all of these things are fueled by a type of mana that we require for the occasion, okay? That is something that we sort of look towards, and we want these sort of things to have an effect within the lives that we live in, within the world that we live in. So it is important for us to understand the differences, the sources of where we gain our energy from, because that's essentially what mana sort of is. It is a fuel for things like magic. Without energy and things like mana, it's very difficult to do things like magic. So it's something for all of you to sort of, understand and to sort of absorb. And again, I must reiterate that what I speak on are the theories behind it and perhaps the truths to those of you who practice. They coincide together. Like I said, this channel is meant to be a bridge, a hub of information about these certain types of topic and issues. I discuss the theories behind magic, the practicality of magic, as well as the theories and practices about certain things like religions or cultist practices. That's essentially what this channel is about and what I do. So for those of you who are out there, newcomers, welcome again to the channel. Okay? Second point in contention, I must say, is that when it comes to things like magic or things like mana, safety is an absolute must, and you must take your precautions, okay? You're young right now, and you're trying to figure out things to do. You're trying to figure yourself out. Everyone is doing that at a time. Life itself is a journey to, some people say, an ultimate destination. What the destination is entirely up to you and your belief. However, I must urge the fact that on your journey, you tend to discover new things. And one of those things is perhaps a new concept about yourself you perhaps didn't know. Everyone is figuring themselves out, adults and children included. And so when it comes to things like magic, wherever you get your thing from, and I'm sorry if I may be offensive to some, but a lot of religions practice magic. You just don't call it magic because it's a negative connotation, But, whether you want to call a hot dog a sausage or a wiener, it doesn't really eliminate the fact of what it is. You know what it is, but you have a different name for it because you prefer one over the other. I'm not talking about preferences. I'm talking about commonality. I'm talking about functionality. I'm talking about the truth of it, the fact of it. That is essentially what I'm doing on this sort of type of channel, okay? But when it comes to safety, I urge all of you to remember that whatever you're practicing, do your proper research first. that you are with a responsible adult, if you're young, if you're practicing doing things like potions or whatever it is, even things like chanting, whoever you're watching, make sure that they are giving you points down and that they are giving you, instructions to perform these things in a safely manner. There are far too many people, young mages included, that are performing sort of rituals or any kind of things without supervision and without any sort of prior knowledge and real understanding of what they are doing. It is the same thing when it comes to things like, things like religion or anything else. Before you dedicate yourself into a being, understand what it is asking of you, understand what it is, whether or not it is truthful in what it is saying, and if what you are able to give won't cause harm to yourself, okay? Blood, sweat, and tears in a literal sense. So be very careful. Even things like money are very important. You don't want to waste all your money acquiring certain materials or components, okay? Magic is also extremely practical, and it focuses incredibly on the intention of its user. Okay, something doesn't have to be raw or authentic and whatever. The intention is what matters, okay? As long as the component has something in it and is of value to a certain degree, okay, you can use it within your spell work or within your craft. And there's certain spirits or anything you're praying to, whatever, that sort of see these things. They sort of look at the act and then they see the transaction that is being made when you perhaps commit these sort of things into your craft, into your spirit work. Okay? So, the other thing I would probably mention is how I'm a professor. Okay? The Alchemical Society, like I've explained before, is designed to sort of monitor and to keep in control over the magical forces that govern Antesha, which is the nation that I come from originally. But they also have some agents here that work behind the scenes to make sure that things don't run amok. So it's sort of similar to what you see what's it called? The Ministry of Magic in the Harry Potter series and things of that nature. It is of a similar, a thing. I mean, it's not as, extravagant as what you see here. It's nothing like that in the real magical world. Where I come from, it is a lot more like that, but here, magic has been muted for a lot of reasons to maintain a balance. It's simply the laws that your world, that universe creates to sort of, keep it from, destroying itself, as it were, because magic can be very, very dangerous in that fact, But it is an organization that is designed as a sort of policing agency to make sure everyone's following the laws, to make sure that nothing magic is going awry. This consists of creatures that could potentially cause harm to, the mundane, as we call them, or muggles, as you understand, or perhaps to fellow practitioners or people that have an affinity for magic or things like mana. So it is a very, important thing. So, but before I bore you with the rest, I must tell you all again that, on this channel, it is mostly informative. It's mostly something for you to learn from. But there are entertaining aspects. I make a lot of jokes, something that go over the heads of many and under some, I agree some things may be a bit, a bit too, highbrow or lowbrow for some of you. But like I said, I do things in jest. And no, this is not intended for anyone that's like 5. Of course not. If you're watching and you're 5, no, forget it. Come back when you're a bit older. At least have some supervision, I will do my best to have some, refine, to pull back on certain things, but I want to remain as authentically myself as possible. And if you're okay with that, I am very grateful and good for you. And props to you, you parent or whoever you are who are watching. So, like I said, if you are perhaps interested in this channel, in this sort of thing, please feel free to come back. I talk about a huge variety of subjects, I spoke about things like hauntings, the things like residual magics or echoes of magic, hauntings that, sort of coincide with that. I spoke about things like mermaids, things about trolls, things like griffins, even things like centaurs. I think I may have gone into or not. I'll have to, back into my archive a bit. Things like spirits, what they are, things like magic, what they are, the concepts of them, where they come from, the elements, the lines, the spectrum that, we sort of go through, the sort of actions that people do. I've even spoken about things about, current events or whatever, but I feel as though I need to focus on something specific, even though I don't have to. But, for the sake of you guys and for the sake of, not alienating anyone else with certain opinions or facts, believe it or not, I would just keep it to, what I understand here. So, if you are happy about it, if you're excited, if you have any questions, I urge all of you to please write into the comments. I do, in fact, read them. I've been waiting for someone to perhaps submit certain questions to me because I will be addressing them. Now, could I address every question? I absolutely could. But I would have to consider how many there are and how much time I have to submit these sort of questions. But I am an open book, and I am more than happy and willing to have a conversation with anyone that's perhaps a actual practitioner, a fellow practitioner, perhaps even another theorist like myself, or perhaps someone who's just simply curious about it and perhaps likes the whole curiosity, the magic behind the whole thing. Perhaps, to give me a concept to explain how I believe it would work in a real world sense. So it's a lot of things that I am very excited about. So I urge all of you, and I want all of you to ask me anything, And so, even things like comments, you want to say I'm a piece of shit, it is what it is, then go ahead and do so. I thrive off the negative manner. It gives me energy. It makes me feel young. I love it. So, so there's that. So there's a lot of things I can talk about. Like I said, this is more so an intro video, a new thing I'm sort of trying to convey to perhaps a broader audience, a newer audience, perhaps a younger audience. Because I do understand, despite the fact that as much as I want myself to be known, to understand, to inform the masses, I have to reach the masses. And a majority of the masses are people that, aren't really in any specific age bracket. They're either in the middle or they're a younger age. It's simply how this platform sort of works, unfortunately. But like I said, I am doing these videos sort of out of the goodness of my heart, out of the sort of passion I have to simply create something, to simply do something, to simply inform something, and to have a conversation with intelligent and beautiful people like yourselves. So, without further more delay, and it's a bit shorter than my other videos, but I'm simply making this to bring a point. I want to talk about something in the next following video that I may have to, reword or perhaps think carefully and word carefully in a sort of manner that I believe is accepting to all. But it's going to be some deep subjects coming up these next few days. So I want all of you to sort of tune in. These are things that can be a bit emotional, even for me, and perhaps could be triggering, depending on what you've sort of gone through. But these are things that are very important, and these are things that have to be spoken of. These are things that people have to have conversations about, and they need to have understandings of, because if not, we remain ignorant. And to be ignorant is not a crime, but to remain ignorant is. I absolutely do not like that sort of thing. Simply to do it just because of your own proper safety is, I believe, a bit selfish in a way, and I believe a bit cowardly. You need to know as much and learn as much possible. It's how you lead to progression, it's how you lead to betterment as a being, as a person, as a wizard, a witch, or whatever you want to call yourself, okay? So, without further more delay, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. I hope all of you perhaps consider these words and tune into the next one with anticipation. I will work, and hopefully I can get this up to a wider audience. If not, you'll gain a brief summary as to what the channel is about and of what, we are trying to do, okay? So, if you have your brother locked in the cage, make sure to let him out. It gets gassy in there. Make sure whatever you're practicing, you're doing it in safety, that you are acquiring the right sort of materials, resources, and substances. So, I urge all of you to do these sort of things in safety, be kind to one another, loving to one another, and remember that on this channel, we seek to make the mundane magical, okay? I love you all dearly. Goodbye.